So welcome everyone to this year's UCD Virtual Engineering Open Evening. You're very welcome. My name is Laura Egan-O'Brien. I'm the Marketing Manager for the College of Engineering and Architecture here in UCD. I'm going to be your host for this evening, so I'm going to give you a short overview presentation. I'll be the moderator for the panel discussion, and please feel free to ask me any questions as we progress through the event this evening. I'm delighted that so many of you have been able to join us. I know most of you are from Ireland, but I do see some of our international or potential international students also tuning in. So everyone's very, very welcome. There's a good few of you online, so hopefully that'll make for a really great discussion. If you do have questions throughout the event, please feel free to pose the questions to me or our panel of students. You can do that using the control panel at the bottom of your screen. There's a Q&A button there. Please type your questions there throughout the event as they come to you, and we'll try to get through as many as we can before we finish up just before 7 o'clock. So for the event this evening, the kind of format we decided to go on, but I know most of you have probably had a chance to attend one of our other events earlier in the year, most likely the UCD Open Day in November, or maybe potentially a school talk or a presentation from me or one of my colleagues. So we decided to steer away from talking about kind of entry requirements and subjects and things like that, and focus in and really talk about the student experience and what it's actually like to study engineering here in UCD, which is why we have a great panel of students here to talk to you about their kind of experience and what it's actually like to study here. But don't worry, if you are looking for more information on entry requirements and subjects and things like that, we did record the talk at the UCD Open Day in November. It was given by Professor Aoife Ahern, who's our college principal and Dean of Engineering. So it's a more comprehensive talk that is available on our YouTube channel, which is UCD Eng Arc. And I might ask Katie just to pop a link to our YouTube channel as well. So feel free to go there and to view that particular video. Or after the event, also Katie might pop up my email address and her email address in the chat as well. So you can reach out to us for more information on things that we discussed this evening or things that we don't get a chance to discuss as well. So I think we'll get started. As I said, I'm going to give a really, really short overview presentation, really about kind of the top level, why engineering is a really good choice, why it makes a great degree, and the kind of career opportunities around engineering and what it has to offer and the opportunities available to it, and why I think it's a really, really great discipline and really great thing to pursue. Okay, so this is just a very short engineering presentation. As I said, my name is Laura Egan-O'Brien. And the first kind of thing I'm going to show you is a really, really short video called UCD Rising to the Future. So UCD being Ireland's largest university, we're really here to help you find inspiration on your journey to discover what you want to do in the future. And this video will give you a little insight into that.
Every journey finds its own inspiration. In deep conversations and idle chat. In debate, discussion and dialogue. In ideas that start small, but go on to change the world. UCD is where those journeys begin. A catalyst and canvas for inquiring minds, sharpening ambition, sparking the intellect, shaping each and every one of us to rise to the future, to leave our mark on the world. In science and the arts, in tech, business and the environment. The world is waiting for you to take that first step. Find your degree at ucd.ie/CAO. UCD, rising to the future.
You'll see from that video, we're really trying to pitch UCD as where students sharpen their ambition, spark their intellect, and rise to the future to meet the challenges that are coming in the future and coming your way. So hopefully that piqued your interest in UCD, and now we want to pique your interest in engineering at UCD. So I'm going to give you a kind of, what is engineering for those who maybe are still a bit unsure. So engineering uses maths, science, and a little bit of imagination to take ideas and turn them into reality. Engineers are masters of problem solving and creative design. As a career, engineering offers a chance to make a difference to people's lives while you get to enjoy a dynamic and varied working life. Engineers are in demand worldwide because they're essential to the growth and development of every country. The progress of civilization really has largely depended on the work of engineers to have harnessed and controlled the environment to provide us with essentials of living life like water, shelter, power. And in the past few decades, engineers have changed the world by helping to send astronauts into space, by, mapping the human genome, creating the internet, just to name a few kind of small little ones that have changed our world. Right now, engineers are working to solve innovative projects, things like tackling climate change, also producing synthetic organs, perfecting driverless cars, and also pandemic response. So studying engineering, regardless of what discipline that you might choose, is a really great choice. And UCD also is a great choice. So what we do in UCD is we offer one entry to our engineering course, and then as you progress through your degree, you can specialize in the different disciplines that we do offer. So for anyone who's coming in through the CEO system, it's just one entry code, it's DN150. And then for our non-EU international students who apply directly to us, it's NUS1. So this is the kind of pathway and the kind of structure of the program itself. So as you'll see through this, there's a lot of options and a lot of choices, and I'll talk you through them a little bit now. As I said, you come into a common first year, everyone comes in under the same banner, just the one engineering course code. And then you're really kind of getting to explore your options and get everyone up to the same level from the leaving cert or their high school education, their second level, wherever you're coming from. We want everyone to be on the same footing. So your core modules will be in the likes of chemistry, maths, physics, which are really important aspects of engineering. And then you're going to start to do kind of modules and classes to explore the different aspects of engineering, the fundamentals of engineering. So you can get to decide and get to know what you like, and maybe what subsequently engineering discipline that you're going to specialize in. So things like intro to electrical, electronic engineering, intro to engineering computing, intro to mechanics, energy engineering, and things like various design modules that you can choose from, like Biosystems Engineering Design Challenge, Robotics Design Challenge, and a really nice module called Creativity in Design as well. And then you can explore other disciplines that we offer, like Chemical Engineering Process Principles, intro to Civil and Environmental Engineering, Climate Change and Policy, Engineering and Architecture Structures, Biomedical Sciences. So there's a great variety of options available to you in first year, so you can get to know what kind of engineering that you might like to specialize in. And it's only going into second year, at the end of first year, that you make a choice of what pathway you're going to specialize in as part of your bachelor degree. And the options that we do have are biomedical engineering, chemical and bioprocess engineering, civil engineering, electrical, electronic engineering, mechanical engineering, and structural engineering with architecture. So you see, there's a great variety there, and there's probably something for everyone who's interested in engineering. And then going into third year, you also make another choice, and that's if you'd like to do a study abroad or Erasmus exchange opportunity, either 6 months or a full year in another university somewhere around the world. So it's a really great experience for students who choose this opportunity. And also you can experience a different culture, get to know new friends, or a different way of learning in another university. So it's a great experience. And then for students who don't choose to do that particular study abroad or exchange program, we do welcome a lot of international students on study abroad and exchange programs to our classes and our programs in that particular year. So even if you're staying in Ireland, you'll get to experience the possibility of making new friends with international students. And at the end of third year, again, you make another choice. And that's if you're going to stick with us for the 4-year program. So you finish after 4 years with a Bachelor of Engineering, or you're going to do the full 5-year program with us, where you finish with an integrated Bachelor and Masters of Engineering. Now, for students who choose the 4-year program, they finish, and maybe it's because they want to just get straight out into the working world and start their career. Maybe they want to do a master's somewhere else in another university. But there's plenty of career opportunities for students who choose the Bachelor, and it's not a lesser option, it's just another choice for our students. But I think nowadays, majority of students are choosing that full 5-year program for a couple of reasons. One being that for essentially just one extra year, you get to finish with a master's. Also, as part of the master's program, we offer 6 to 8 month internship as part of the curriculum, which most students find really, really valuable as well. And then also you get to specialize a little bit further if you choose to as part of your discipline. So you'll see some new subjects coming in at master's level, things like biosystems and food engineering, electrical power, electronic and computer engineering, engineering with business is a popular option nowadays as well, material science, optical engineering, things like that are coming in at the master's level. So you'll see from the structure that our engineering program is all about giving you options and choice and the flexibility to shape the degree to how you want it to be. Also help you making informed choices before you have to make any big decisions as what you're going to do as far as your engineering degree and subsequent career in the future. So most of our students find this really, really beneficial and all the supports around those decisions that you make. So then just to go into a little bit about careers in engineering, because that's what ultimately most people, do the degree because they want to actually work as an engineer. So how good is a career in engineering really? And the answer is it's really, really great degree to get into if you want variety and varied opportunities as far as a career goes. So students of engineering develop a valuable set of transferable skills that serve as a strong career foundation. Engineers are problem solvers, they have a flexible, creative approach to work, and they work well in teams as well, which is really important. These skills are highly useful in every role from technician to CEO, and in every industry from aerospace to healthcare to IT. So it's not surprising that engineers are some of the most sought after people for a diverse range of jobs. And an engineering qualification offers a chance to do interesting work with interesting people, maybe to enhance people's lives and explore almost unlimited career opportunities. And you can see from this slide here some of the logos of the companies that our students have gone to work for in the past and how varied that those companies are, and the opportunities, as I said, are limitless as far as an engineering degree goes. So career-wise, I think it's a really great degree to get into. And then this is kind of mostly my last slide. So why I think engineering at UCD in particular is a great choice. So UCD is ranked in the top 1% of universities worldwide. This means that we attract leading academics and subsequently can offer you a world-class engineering education. I talked a little bit about before, we have the widest range of engineering degree options available in Ireland. So if you don't really know what you'd like to specialize in, that's a really great thing to have, having that breadth and that choice of engineering disciplines. We do offer a 6 to 8 month internship as part of our master's programs, and most students find this really beneficial so they can help put what they learn in the classroom into practice in a real world scenario, and also use it as a stepping stone on the career ladder, and help get their get their contacts and networking, and how to apply for jobs and things like that as well. And then Ireland, as UCD as Ireland's global university, we have partnerships with universities all around the world. So if you are interested in that study abroad or Erasmus opportunity, we have plenty of options available to you as a student. We have links with major employers and great excellent career prospects. As I mentioned in the previous slide, engineering degree can't really steer you wrong as far as career goes, but we also have plenty of supports in UCD available to students in the career networks team to help you get the best foot forward when you're getting your your job at the end of your degree. Our courses are variously accredited as well by the various professional bodies in engineering, so Engineers Ireland, IOM3 and IChemE. And then also, transitioning to university can be tough for students. And as you progress through your degree, various things may come up. So we have a number of UCD supports available to students should you need them. Things like the Math Support Centre. We have a dedicated librarian for engineering. We have a career and skills consultant in Careers Network team specifically for engineering. We have the Students' Union. We have peer mentors, student advisors, the college office. So there's something there for everyone who may need it as they progress throughout their degree. So never suffer in silence, and there's always help available to you. And then as much as it is about getting a degree is in the classroom, we also want students to experience the full life of UCD, so that we have a number of UCD clubs and societies available to students to join. So whatever you're interested in, we probably have a club or society for that. And we do have a couple that are kind of geared towards the more STEM or more engineering focus. So we have the UCD Formula Student, we have Engineering World Health, we have Women in STEM, we have the EngSoc, we have the ElecSoc, which has the Robotics Club. So there's really something for everyone who is particularly interested in engineering. There's a lot there for you to join. So that's pretty much me. I hope that gives you a very short and comprehensive overview of what we have to offer here in engineering at UCD. So thank you very much for listening. My email address is there on the screen should you have to reach out to me, or we are on a number of the social medias channels as well, so you can reach out to us there too. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll get started with our panel discussion, which is, I'm guessing, why most of you are here. So I'm going to ask our students to pop on their cameras and come off mute, and we'll get started. Perfect. So I'm going to introduce everyone, if that's okay. So we have Jack, who is a final year Bachelor in Civil Engineering student. We also have Nicole, who's a final year Masters of Mechanical Engineering with Business student. We have Sam, who is a final year student or a Masters in Biomedical Engineering. And then I also have Emilian, who's a final year student in Electrical and Computer Engineering as well. So thank you all very much for coming on. I know it's a kind of busy time of year trying to get set up for your new semester starting and exam results coming out, those kind of things. So I do appreciate you all joining us for this evening. I think our attendees will find it really, really useful to hear your perspective on the student experience. I think you have a lot to offer our attendees as far as what you have to say. So I think we'll start off by the kind of basic question that we all want to know is why you chose UCD, why you chose engineering, and maybe a little bit about why you chose your specific discipline as well. So Jack, I might go to you first as you're first on my screen.
Yeah, so kind of one of the main reasons I chose engineering was I was always kind of into building stuff and into problem solving. And that kind of led to me choosing to do engineering in college. And then specifically, I'm doing civil engineering. And for most of you that don't know which one that is, that's the construction side one. So I'd work on buildings and stuff like that, like either managing them or setting out buildings, or even to the extent of designing buildings. And kind of that's the reason I got into engineering mainly, is because that's where I wanted to work. I wanted to work outside, and I wanted to work out in construction.
Great, thank you, Jack. That's really interesting. I think most students who may be interested in civil engineering, I think will find that really useful. So Nicole, if you want to go next.
Perfect. From the get-go, I didn't know if I really wanted to do engineering. I was stuck between a few different things, one of them being as well medicine. But after attending a lot of talks in my final year of secondary school and going to higher options, talking to a lot of people, biomedical engineering struck to me as in kind of like an alternative to medicine, which you still kind of help people. But after getting the exposure to all of the different modules in first year, I steered away from biomedical and joined the mechanical engineering side of things, as I felt all of the things taught during it helped me kind of understand how things are made and put a lot of the world into perspective, even when looking at different household things or even looking at buildings, how they are made, how everything, all of this is involved. I remember even when I was younger, I used to love watching How It's Made. I'm sure a lot of you know this program, and just knowing that maybe I can contribute to something sometime in the future, but also knowing that mechanical engineering is quite a broad subject and stream of engineering that I can go into any type of work in the future as well.
Great, thanks, Nicole. And I think that's really useful because I think there are probably people who are watching and tuning in today who are wrangling between maybe engineering and medicine and science and things like that. So yeah, I think that's a really valid point. Sam, if you want to talk about your experience.
Yeah, no problem. I was actually kind of in a similar boat to Nicole. So I actually hadn't initially considered engineering. So I didn't take the kind of typical engineering subjects for my leaving cert. I didn't do physics, applied maths, or chemistry. I did do biology, though, so I had the kind of science requirement. And it was probably one of my favorite subjects when I was in leaving cert. And I loved maths as well. And as I started to do more research, I kind of started to come across biomedical engineering, and it was something that really, really appealed to me. I thought was kind of combined my interests in biology and maths, and it was something that could really help people to like design medical devices, something that have a huge impact on people's lives as well. So I actually came into UCD knowing that I wanted to kind of study biomedical engineering when I went into second year, but I think the general engineering was really helpful to kind of see the other streams of engineering as well. And I was actually considering mechanical engineering as well, but I ended up going the biomedical engineering stream instead.
Brilliant, thanks, Sam. I think that's also a good point that, you know, while we typically think of physics as very much a subject needed for going to engineering, maybe then chemistry and then biology, yeah. But we don't require students to have a particular science subject. They just have to have one science subject. And first year is about everyone getting up to the same level. So I wouldn't worry for students who are tuning in that they only have the biology, or maybe they only have chemistry and they haven't done physics. It's not an issue, as you can see that Sam got on fine. He's doing great. So thank you for that. Emilian, you're next if you want to talk about your experience.
Yeah, sure. So I was always really interested in science, but I wanted a degree that would let me apply my creativity as well. So my favorite subjects for the Leaving Cert were DCG and applied maths, which kind of gave me the idea that I might want to do mechanical engineering. But I actually started off studying biology. I thought that science was what I really wanted to do. And then once I got started, I realized it just wasn't for me. I wanted something with more real world solutions and something that I could apply, like more problem solving abilities of mine. So I chose engineering because it kind of amalgamates all of my interests, and it has, like, you get to take your own spin on things rather than following like a textbook solution. So that's why I chose engineering.
Great. I think that's really interesting for attendees to hear as well, that maybe if you start in science, there is opportunities to transfer over to engineering. Well, we want students to make a great informed choice, first of all. It doesn't always happen that way. So there are opportunities available for students who want to swap over at the end of first year. So that's good for people to know. So thank you all for sharing your UCD engineering, kind of why you chose to come here experience. So I think another question that we always get asked about is, you know, what's a typical day or what's a typical week like for engineering students? Is there flexibility? Are you in the classroom all the time? Do you have much free time? If you want to speak to that, maybe we'll start with Sam this time.
Yeah, no problem. I think one of the great things about engineering at UCD is the kind of wide variety of things that you get involved with on a week-to-week basis. Like, you have a good mixture of lectures and labs every week. It is quite intensive. Like, there is a good bit of hours compared to maybe some other courses, but I think you still definitely have time to kind of participate in some extracurricular stuff as well if you're interested. Like, UCD has such a wide range of clubs and societies for all interests, really, and you definitely still have time to participate in kind of usual university things as well, I think. But I think the great thing about UCD engineering is kind of variability that you have in a week to week. I think no week is the same as well. Like, with each semester you have different subjects and you're always kind of adding to your knowledge, and which keeps the course really interesting, I think.
Great. Nicole, as a final year student, do you find that your timetable has changed much as you progress through your degree?
Yeah, definitely. Looking back at my first year modules as well as my module and my timetable nowadays, a lot has changed. I remember having a lot of those hours, probably around 40 hours, some specific weeks whenever it came to labs or any specific laboratory or any other specific modules that were really intense as well. But now I think I have probably 4 hours, and a lot of it as well, all of the hours go into my thesis that I have to work as well on it. But looking back in first year, even though all of the hours were mostly spent in like lecture halls or labs, I still managed to have a lot of time for extracurricular activities, as I was involved with student council as a class rep in first year, as well as joining the engineering society. And over the years that I've been in UCD, I've learned a lot of time management, because we are going to be, as I said, mostly in classrooms, but learn how to manage the time well between your classroom and your spare time. It will provide you with the opportunity to meet with people, either from different societies or sports clubs, which we have a lot in UCD as well. But also if you, for example, have a part-time job, which I also did in first year. So trying to manage and juggle that was quite challenging, but it is doable and people shouldn't be worried about it as well. But I always go, if there's a will, there is a way. So you just kind of have to manage it, and I'm sure anyone can do it with a little bit of help. And yeah.
Great. I think that will be a comfort to a lot of people tuning in, that while it is an intensive degree and ultimately then a rewarding qualification that you get with it, it's not all work and no play, that there are opportunities to do other things. There are opportunities to have part-time jobs if you want to and need to have that as well. So I think, yeah, as Nicole said, it comes down to time management and how good you are with your own time management. But you'll learn those skills as you progress the degree as well. So thank you, Nicole, for sharing that. Jack, I might go to you next. Just to ask, if you're looking back on your first year experience, Did you find anything surprising when you came into first year, or was there anything that helped you transition from second level to university level?
I think the most surprising thing was how sociable engineers were. I think I had the whole notion that all engineers were very unsociable people, but literally on the first day of college, everyone is desperate to try and make friends. And by the end of the first day, you've about 10, 20 friends. And it's amazing how quickly and how important those friends you make in the first day become. Like 5 years on from then, I'm still very good friends with everyone I met on the first day, and how strong friendships you form in college. Like, it's very different to your childhood friends and secondary school friends.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm looking back at my college experience, and I'm still friends with people I went to college with as well. I think it's that shared interest and that kind of going through a degree like probably engineering, because it's quite intensive. It can kind of forge bonds like that as well. So yeah, I think that's a really nice sentiment. And I think it's really nice for people to hear about that as well. So another question I always get asked a lot about is, and I think Emilian, you touched a bit about why you chose engineering, but is how practical and how hands-on engineering actually is. Do you spend a lot of time doing that kind of practical stuff?
Personally, I would say yes, I do spend a lot of time on the practical aspects. Most of our modules have a lab component to them, but we typically have like 3 lectures a week where we learn the theory, and then we get to apply that knowledge by solving practical problems in the labs. But I find that the labs were fantastic because it prepared me really well for the workforce. And I used a lot of my experience during my internship. So the electrical and electronic labs gave us like a very wide variety of like subjects and topics that we could solve problems in. And then all of that I was able to use on my internships. And I was really grateful that there was that there were so many things that we could get our hands on. And that's why I kind of spent a lot of time on the practicals, just because it's very interesting to me. But I think the experience can vary there as well. Just depends on how many you would like to do as well.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on what discipline you've chosen, kind of what option modules you pick, and how many labs you have and things like that. But yeah, it's a question I get asked all the time. So thank you for that. I think expanding on the kind of practical hands-on side of it is there's a lot of project work in engineering. Maybe Sam, if you want to talk about maybe a project that you've done that you found particularly interesting, or maybe your favorite subject or a subject that you think you found the most interesting.
Yeah, I think over my 5 years in UCD, I've had like the opportunity to get involved in loads of really interesting projects, and it's kind of looking back. Actually, at the moment, I am working on my thesis project for my final year. So for this project, I'm actually looking at heart valve designs and trying to create a model of a heart valve on a computer. So it's a really like practical project that could have a lot of applications in the real world for designing next generation devices that can improve patient outcomes, for example. Another project that I worked on that was also quite practical and quite relevant to biomedical engineering was we had to create an algorithm that would detect abnormalities in an ECG signal. So for those who don't know, an ECG signal is basically the electrical signal that the heart makes when it's beating or when it's in the cardiac cycle. So in one of my classes, I had to basically design a computer code that would detect abnormalities in an ECG signal and kind of flag these abnormalities. So they were kind of a couple of interesting projects that I'm working on or have worked on in the past. In terms of my favorite class, I think probably so far, I think mechanics of fluids is one that I've really enjoyed. I didn't think I would enjoy it when I started at first, but I think as I got more involved in it, it was something that really appealed to me because it really was, you could really relate it to the human body, for example. And I kind of found that I was really interested in looking at, say, the blood flow through the heart or blood flow through the arteries and relating the principles I learned in these classes to the human body. That was probably my favorite class that I've taken so far.
Brilliant. I think people who are interested in biomedical would be delighted that those kind of projects are going on in UCD. So thank you. Jack, do you have a project or a favorite subject you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so I did the civil engineering stream, and in one of the modules that we get to do is one called case studies. It's where you kind of like will be given a brief of like a job or a task, and then you in a group of people will have to solve it. So some of the examples were we had to build a motorway crossing for animals. That was an interesting one and a surprisingly awkward thing that we didn't really understand a lot of doing it. And then one that sounds a lot better than it actually was we had to design a sports stadium. And it's very much kind of more on the real world aspects and something very a lot bigger, and it feels very like very serious when you're going through it. And it's great fun to work out with kind of like with your friends, with people in your year, and kind of like playing out ideas, like figuring out things, being creative, coming up with silly solutions, and then also acknowledging that some silly solutions don't work. But it was a great one of kind of like of just playing around with stuff. Another great module that we had was a constructions practice module, in which we got to actually go into the civil engineering labs and play around with concrete and stuff. And like, so there's lots of projects then in the concrete lab left over from last semester that I was walking through. And like they had a checkered board made out of concrete and wood, and it looked brilliant. And then another project had the UCD water tower made out of concrete and wood, which is just like, it's very fun, and it's a lot of messing around in the lab, which I think everyone enjoys.
So civil engineering sounds like there's a lot of practical, a lot of hands-on elements to it. And the fact that you get to work on like small scale projects, but right up to big scale projects, I think is really interesting. And so thank you for sharing that. So I think we'll move on now. I think most of you are doing the 5-year program. So maybe Nicole, if you wanted to talk a little bit about your work experience, because that's something that is really, really beneficial to the program and the 5-year program in particular.
Yeah, no problem. Currently, I just finished my work experience in December, because for the business side of things, we have to do our work placement from June to December, which is quite different to all the other streams. But I did my work experience in a biomedical company called Synthase, which is a medical device company that specializes in orthopedic joints, and such as knee, hip implants, but also shoulder joints. And it was really interesting to be working in such a company, even with my mechanical and business background, just to see how to get a product from A to Z and see such a high end of a multinational company and how it operates, but also see how I can use all the theory I have learned in college from different modules, how they all kind of combine and kind of go into like one shape, and then you use them throughout all of your work experience, and then you get to kind of practice more. So what I definitely found challenging was try and stay consistent and try and work and be consistent in your time management, contact people as well, try and get out of your comfort zone, which was definitely a big thing for me, because usually in college we deal with your professors, your colleagues. In here, you had to deal with a lot of industry partners, a lot of higher up management, which was quite difficult for me at first. But after reaching out and building up my network and using all those skills and knowledge I have acquired in college, it was so much easier. And when I reached out to a lot of people and built that network, I also followed up after loads of career talks that they offered to us as well. And I managed to secure as well a job after my college journey as well. So definitely apply and look for any good career opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's a really important aspect, that, and congratulations on your job, by the way.
Thank you.
A lot of people would be pleased to hear that it takes the pressure off, going into your final year, knowing that you already have a job to go into, and that the work placement can provide you with that opportunity if you perform well, and that you're not, you're actually working in real life company on real life projects with real life responsibilities. So it's a really great way to flex you know, what you're actually going to do when you're finished your degree, and put what you learn into practice. And also another aspect I just picked up on was that you worked in a biomedical company, but you have a mechanical engineering background. So I think it's important for people to know that just because you specialize in one particular field doesn't mean you'll never work in another field. Engineering is so multidisciplinary that there's probably a lot of crossover as well. I think we have probably time for another professional work experience kind of experience. Emilian, if you want to talk about your professional work experience, just I think it's a really important aspect of the course.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I completed my 8-month internship with Eaton's Centre for Intelligent Power here in Dublin. I got to work on a very exciting Internet of Things project that they're working on, which gave me experience with data science and machine learning that I hadn't had the chance to experience yet during my studies. The team I was working with was very broad, and we had team members from all across the globe. It was a really fantastic opportunity to apply the knowledge I've gained throughout my studies to real world applications. And it's broadened my view of where my degree can take me. So I find that I'm applying a lot of like the time management and communication skills I picked up to my thesis work. And I definitely have a better view of like what I might want to do once I graduate and the kind of jobs that are possible. So it was really great.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think the work placement is great, as you said, for figuring out what you want to do post-degree, what you want to do in the future, and maybe even what you don't want to do. I'm sure there's some students who walk away going, no, that's not for me. And that's equally a valuable a kind of experience that you have. So yeah, I think the work placement is a great opportunity that UCD provides. So thank you for sharing that. Another opportunity, as we've mentioned in my very short presentation that we offer at UCD, is the study abroad experience. So I know, Sam, that you went on study abroad to the US, and I'm sure a lot of students will find it really fascinating to hear a little bit more about that, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so as Laura kind of mentioned earlier, within UCD, you have the opportunity to go on study abroad in third year. So you can go for 1 semester or 2 semesters. I went for 1 semester for the second semester. So I went from January to May to the University of Miami in the US. So one of the great things about UCD is there's so many opportunities in different places you can go to. Like there's lots of different universities they have an offer across the US and Canada and Australia and New Zealand, for example. So as I mentioned, I went to the University of Miami and I took basically all the core modules that I would take in UCD anyway. So I wasn't missing out on any classwork as well. And I just got the kind of extra experience of living abroad in a very different country to Ireland for a semester and experiencing the college life at this campus and the different climates, for example. Through this, I met people from all across the world that I'm still in contact with fairly regularly. So that it's a really good experience, and it kind of opens your view and opens your kind of mind to different kind of experiences and different cultures, and you get to do a lot of kind of extra traveling as well. Like while I was there, I got to visit Orlando in Florida, Key West, the Everglades, and all these kind of mad places. So no, it was a really good experience. I think it's one of the great opportunities that you have when you're in UCD. So definitely would recommend.
Brilliant. I think it sounds like you had a terrible time.
Yeah.
I want to do it.
Yeah, I know.
But no, I think it's for students who choose that particular option, I think it's a really great experience. And also employers like to see that you kind of have that worldly outlook, that you've had a different experience as well. So yeah, I think if students want to do that, there's plenty of opportunities available. And as I said, for students who stay in Ireland, they're still going to have a great experience, and they get to meet new people who are coming in to the classroom that particular year from their own other universities around the world. So thank you for sharing that. So then Jack, might move to you just around, you're in final year now. So what's next? What do you hope to do? Do you find civil engineering is a good degree to get into for careers? Have you found it a career orientated degree?
So yeah, so I've done a huge amount of placement as well. I've worked for Walls Construction for about 2 years. And like in that situation as a student engineer, you're on site and you tend to be very quickly put into a management role. And kind of already I've gotten 2 job offers for when I finish college. And definitely at the moment, civil engineers are something that they're desperate for out there. There just isn't enough, because during the recession, people stopped doing civil engineers, and all of a sudden there's a massive lack of them. So like careers wise, it's very good at the moment. And personally, I found like once you get into the job, it's quite a busy job. You tend to be doing a lot of things at once, and construction tends to be quite fast paced, and you tend to move job a lot as well. So you might be stuck on one job for a year and then you'll shift on to another one, which does come with its benefits and losses at the same time. Like if you're not enjoying an area, you'll actually be shifted on fairly quickly and then you'll get a new challenge. If you get bored, which I found is something that tends to happen to me, is I get bored of something quickly. It's a great way to kind of stop being bored, is you get pushed onto another area and you're doing something differently, you're relearning, and it's just a new sort of experience to deal with.
Great, yeah, and I think it's important to note that Jack isn't doing the full 5-year program. He's doing the 4-year program. So while he wouldn't have had opportunity to do a placement as part of the curriculum, he still was doing placements, and I think it's a really important thing to be aware of. And I think, yes, civil engineering is very much in demand at the moment. So wish you all the best of luck in the future. I'm sure you'll do great things. And then I just wanted to ask then a little bit about if anyone has any experience with any of the supports available that UCD offers. Emilian, I know you said you had a bit of experience with the Students' Union. If you want to maybe talk about what they can do for students.
Yeah, absolutely. So I find the Students' Union to be one of the greatest supports I've accessed in UCD. I worked as a class rep for 3 years, so I got to see that just the mammoth amount of things that the Students' Union in UCD does for its students. It's there to make sure that all students on campus feel supported and that their voices are heard, and that if anyone ever has any problems, that there are class reps that they can go to, and usually those problems are resolved pretty quickly. So the things that I've been able to do for my class throughout the years is things like push back some deadlines if they're conflicting or if there's too many of them. We've been able to organize some nights out just to get everyone like acquainted with each other. And then during lockdown as well, make sure that the transition from in-person classes to online learning was very smooth, and that there was smooth communication between these students and the lecturers. So I find that was actually very important, especially during times like this. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important aspect, that the student union is managed and run by students and it's for students, and that's it's a great resource that UCD has, and I'm sure other universities have similar as well. So no, thank you for sharing that. So I think the last question that I'll ask specifically, and then we might go into the Q&As that our attendees have been asking, is just if you have any advice for students who may be wanting to study engineering or progressing into third level, any advice that you could give them, or maybe anything that you wish you'd known before you started. Jack, I might start with you.
So I think I kind of highlighted this bit of advice probably earlier, is be a bit more open and be expecting and interact with people on your first day. Like that's the time to make friends, and it's very important to do so at that time, because that's the best opportunity is to make friends, is in that first couple of days and couple of weeks.
Brilliant. Nicole, your piece of advice, if you have any?
Yeah, I probably touched on a bit about it before, but try and attend maybe careers talk and try to build that kind of network. During those careers talk, you get to talk to different people and ask about their experience, as well as build that network and see what things work for you or what things maybe don't work for you. And then you'll be able to kind of build it up from there.
Brilliant. Sam, any advice?
Yeah, I think kind of to reiterate what Jack said as well, just kind of build up your kind of friend group from the get-go. I think one of the things about UCD is like engineering is it's quite a big class. Like you do kind of get a bit of a fright when you go into your first lecture with everyone in there. But I think one of the great things about first year is that there's so many group projects and you do so much group work that you meet so many different people, and you make a kind of a really good group of friends really quickly. So I think that's kind of my main advice.
Brilliant. And Emilian, your piece of advice?
My piece of advice would be to not be too intimidated, because it can be a bit scary, and some people kind of might be put off studying engineering because of their own conceptions of what it might be. But I would say, like, don't limit yourself to that, And then to reiterate what everyone else said about making friends, I would say pursue your interests and get involved in societies, because they're a really great way to make friends.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think college is a great place that you can make friends, and it's either in your course or in your extracurriculars and like that. I think there's plenty of opportunities to make friends. So thank you very much for answering all my questions that I was posing to you. So I'm going to go into the Q&A now and just see, we've probably covered a good few of the things that have been asked, but I'll just try and pick out a couple while we have some time left that we haven't kind of covered. Jack, I might throw this to you because it is a question I get asked a good bit is, what is the difference between civil engineering and then structural engineering with architecture? Obviously you're doing civil, but you might have a bit of an insight that you could give to people.
So we share a lot of common modules between the two of us from second year pretty much up until final year. But a number of the structural and architectural would often do a couple of different modules to us. And like there would be 1 or 2 modules every year up until final year where they will diverge quite a good bit at that. And kind of the difference would be is a structural and architectural would go into kind of structural design office straight off the bat, whereas most civil engineering would be a bit more broader. So a civil engineer could go in working with the ESB in kind of like a management there, and kind of go into hydroelectrical work and stuff like that, and construction side and the actual on-site side of construction. So I think civil is just a bit more broad than the structural and architectural one.
Brilliant. I think that's a good way to explain it. There's just one asking how courses assessed. So maybe if Nicole, you wanted to talk about kind of how exams work in UCD, and is it a lot of exams or it's more continuous assessment?
I think it really depends on the module that you take. Back in first year, a lot of it was exams or midterms as well. But as you progress, we used to get a lot of project work, which were continuous assessment. And I felt it was actually one of the better ways to get assessed because you get a lot of more time to work on them, and they were not heavily consumed last minute learning. I bet a lot of the leaving certs know all about that at the moment, getting ready for mocks. But I think it really mostly depends on each individual program or stream of engineering, as well as your own individual module that you select or you are assigned.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you very much, Nicole. Sam, I might ask you this one, obviously because you did biology for the Leaving Cert and you didn't do applied maths. Do you have to have a strong interest in, someone was asking maths specifically for biomedical engineering, or do you think the level of maths going into engineering is a lot higher than the Leaving Cert?
I think it is important to have some sort of interest in maths and physics, because kind of most of what you learn is kind of based on foundations of physics and maths. I didn't do physics for the Leaving Cert, but I had the kind of interest in maths. And because I had that interest, then I was kind of able to pick up the physics that I kind of missed out on it during the Leaving Cert. So I think it's important to kind of have some sort of interest in maths or physics or applied maths if you wanted to kind of study almost any of the engineering disciplines. I don't think it's specific to biomedical engineering.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point. It's not to be scared of maths. It's not that you have to be the best in your class at maths, but you do have to have at least an interest and a general aptitude for maths. I think is important for, for engineering. And then for students who come in, I know I mentioned it a little bit in my presentation, but there is the Maths Support Centre for students as well. If you do have a little bit of struggle with maths when you come in, if you've made it into the course itself and there's a particular problem or a particular area of maths that you're struggling with, there is the Maths Support Centre there to help our students to get over that little bit of a hump as well. Nicole, there was a specific question here for you just around your specialization, and is it mechanical engineering and then business, is it separate, or is it mechanical engineering with business, or how does the with business aspect work in your particular discipline?
Yeah, I'll be happy to answer that. So you have to do both mechanical modules as well as business modules, but usually those business modules are to do with manufacturing setting or operationals, behavior. It's mostly all of this. So there is a way to kind of interlink both of them. but we also have to take the mechanical modules, which we share with the pure mechanical masters. Then you kind of get see the best of both worlds and see which way you get to contribute a bit of your knowledge and which one you find better as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's really good. Emilian, I might go to you for the next one, just because you touched upon your work experience when we were talking earlier. Is the work experience organized by the college, or did the student have to organize it, or how does that work?
From what I can remember, the UCD Careers, the Careers Center, they have a website where potential employers can list all of the internships on offer that year. So it wasn't organized for us. We definitely had to do the work, but it's great that UCD has those connections that those employers who really want UCD students specifically, that they would keep coming back for us. So it's a mixture of both.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think it's good to know we have 2 internship managers within the college who work with the careers network team to build those connections with companies and to get those jobs postings for students. But as Emilian said, that you apply for them, you like a regular job, it's to kind of get that experience applying for a technical position as well. You'll interview for them, but a lot of the connections are made by UCD, but you then have to actually apply for them themselves. So yeah, thank you for that. Jack, maybe I want to go to you, because I suppose civil engineering has its own little space, but someone's asking about the facilities within engineering. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
So I'm stationed in the civil engineering building, which is a bit further away from everything else now, but we've got amazing facilities here. I'm actually currently in one of the study rooms in the civil engineering building. And there's the civil engineering building has its own study rooms, has its own computer lab, and they tend to be very quiet around exam season, which is always really nice. And then lab wise, so a lot of our labs in first year are done in the Science Hub, which is a state-of-the-art science building. And it was actually one of the reasons that I chose UCD originally, was the Science Hub was new and had the good facilities for it. On the civil engineering side, then we have our own civil engineering lab, and currently I'm spending a lot of time in there doing work on my thesis. But it's a brilliant facility, and there's a lot of good stuff in it, and very good lab techs to help you out whenever you're working in the labs. Yeah.
So I think there was a couple of questions there. Sam, I might throw them to you around study abroad. People asking, what's the process? How do you apply to go and study abroad? Do your grades track back to UCD? And is there a cost involved?
Yeah, I think the process is, you apply during second year. You get a list of universities that UCD are partners with, and you apply to the ones that you're most interested in going to, and the ones that kind of match with the courses that you want to take whilst you would have been in UCD. So you put down, I think, maybe a list of 10 universities. I can't remember the specific number, but then you get offered a place based on your grades, and based on, I think it's based on your first semester of second year grades, I think. You get offered a place based on those grades. And in terms of the costs, I think it's, for me, I don't live in Dublin. I'm not from Dublin, so for me the cost I wasn't living in Dublin for the semester, so the cost, it was probably a little bit more expensive to go and study abroad, but it kind of probably balanced out a little bit, and more with regards to somebody who might be from Dublin going abroad and then paying for accommodation and stuff. But for me, it kind of wasn't as expensive because I would have already been paying for accommodation in Dublin anyway, so it worked. It wasn't too bad in that kind of sense.
Yeah, brilliant. I think it's good for students who are tuning in to note that if we have a partnership agreement with the university, you don't pay additional tuition fees to that university. You're still paying your UCD fees. So even if the institution you go to has higher fees, you don't pay additional cost, but you do have to cover the cost of your accommodation or any traveling that you do and things like that. So as Sam said, if you're living at home, you're going to find it a little bit more expensive, but if you're already paying Dublin rent, it's probably not too bad, which is good to know. Emilian, I might go to you for this because you're doing electronic and computer engineering. Someone's asking about, do you learn to code in first year? And I suppose, is having a coding language important if you're going to do that particular stream?
We are actually taught to code in first year. I went into engineering thinking I hated programming, and I did not know anything. So the like intro to computer science or something for engineers that you get in second semester of first year, as well as the robotics project module that I took, were like, oh wait, maybe I don't want to do mechanical, maybe I want to do electronic engineering. So you absolutely do not need to program before you come in. You are taught everything in the common entry first year that you, Laura, touched on. Like everyone's up to the same kind of standard by the time you get to second year. So yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Jack, I think there was a specific question for you around software applications like CAD. Do you study that, and is that important? And then kind of what level of CAD or DCG related work is in the degree? Someone else was asking as well.
Yeah, so like we would have a couple of CAD specific modules that would have to do in college. And we wouldn't do in civil engineering, you wouldn't do coding though, is the one advantage, just to want to clarify that one. Because coding is, I found coding very difficult and it wasn't for me, and that's kind of is why another reason to go to civil. But on that, yeah, we do a good bit with CAD, and we use a software called Revit, which is it's a very new version of CAD, and it's a very good way of using it. You design a full 3D building in like a virtual space, and you'd be able to move around through the building. You'll be able to specify what sort of walls you build it out of. And it's quite good, and it's actually an intuitive software to use. And it tends to be very common. It's what's being kind of like rolled out in the workspace at the moment, to the point that the UK recently specified that it's standard that they have the model before actually going to site. And so, yeah, that's kind of really it.
Great, thank you, Jack. There was one or two questions I just seen as well, just around class sizes. So Nicole, maybe if you want to talk about, class size in first year are obviously a lot larger, but do they get smaller as you progress your degree? And is it intimidating, or how did you find it?
Yes, in first year, the classes are quite big, especially if you come in the face-to-face lectures. You get put into big, massive lecture halls. So it was quite daunting at first. And myself coming from a small school of just girls and going into such a male-dominated course was quite intimidating, but once you get to kind of meet everyone, was getting a bit better, and you get a lot more comfortable with the big sizes of classroom. But then as you progress throughout the years, the classes do get smaller, as obviously everyone splits to their designated streams of engineering, but also as you progress, you get to choose a lot more of your modules. So you might not share the same modules with everyone. So that's why it could result in classes being smaller even more. And then once you choose your masters as well, the classes diverge even more, so they get a bit smaller, but I feel they're actually great because you get to know a lot of the people personally, which I'm actually really good friends with majority of my class, and it helps in projects, or even get in contact with a lecturer, or put up your hand in the middle of the lecture hall as the class is a lot more smaller. But yeah.
Great. I think that'll be a comfort to people tuning in as well, that it's not as intimidating as it sounds. First year can be very large, but as Nicole says, I mean, it gets smaller and smaller as you get into your different disciplines, and you get a really close-knit group of people in your class by the end, which is great. I think we have time for just one or two more questions. So Sam, I might ask you this one. It was someone just asking around, in first year, you're getting to know your different disciplines and subjects and things that you might want to specialize in. Is it a difficult choice to pick in second year? And do you get support? Do you get help to make that decision going into second year, what you're going to specialize in?
Yeah, I think with the way that the degree is done, you get to kind of experience a bit from like almost all of the streams. So by the time it comes around to making your decision, you've a really good, you're really well informed in all the different disciplines and which kind of one you're most suited to. Personally, when I was coming into UCD, I knew that I wanted to do biomedical engineering. So I still did, like, we still have to do the general engineering, but I think that was really good anyway to kind of open my eyes. And I did, as I mentioned, kind of consider a couple of different streams for specializing in biomedical engineering. But it's a great way to get a feel for all of the different streams. And by the time you do go make your decision, you are really well informed as to which stream best suits you, I think.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sam. And it's also good to note that I think there was a question earlier as well that I didn't get to pick up on was it's essentially free choice going into second year as well. You know, if everyone suddenly decided to choose one particular discipline, obviously we couldn't accommodate that. But generally year on year, the split kind of goes fairly standard each year. We kind of know what to expect as far as the numbers going into each individual stream. So we've never had a position, we've never been in a position where someone chose a particular stream and didn't get that stream. So, you know, we say it's free choice for that reason. So I wouldn't worry about going into first year and thinking you're not going to get your particular discipline. We've never had an instance where someone wasn't able to choose it. So I think we've kind of run out of time now. So I really, really appreciate everyone tuning in. I know there's a few open questions there that we haven't got to. So I would just reiterate, my colleague Katie has been answering some of them in the chat as well. So thank you very much, Katie, for doing that. I might just get Katie to repop back up my email address and obviously her email address as well. So if we didn't get to your question today, if you didn't get a chance to get it answered, please reach out to us after the event today. And we're more than happy to have a conversation with you via email. Or if it's necessary, myself and Katie can arrange a one-to-one Zoom call or phone call with you as well, if that's required. And also, if you go to My UCD, where you registered for the event, we have a couple of students who are on there that are able to chat with you as well, one or two engineering students, so you can chat to students further there as well. And I'd also like to thank all our students for helping and talking about their experiences. I think it's really useful, really valuable. I hope people found it beneficial. I hope it answered most of the questions that people maybe were coming with today. But yeah, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Have a good rest of your evening. Thank you again.